monthly Cinder weekly meeting. I don't know how you call it, right? It's our weekly meeting, but monthly we do it on video and IRC. So that's what we're doing today. Just remember the ground rules, just to make it as friendly as possible. I'm going to be doing it in IRC just the way we usually do. If anybody's uncomfortable with verbal English and prefers to get stuff written down, just pop in the chat or on the IRC and just say you want to discuss this in IRC, and then we'll do everything in there as well and make sure we take notes even better than we do usually. And I suppose I should be typing this, which I'm not. So let me just say to read the meeting rules. So we are having people showing up in IRC who aren't here yet. Okay, so let's kick off the meeting. Okay, so announcements. First thing is you may notice on the OS brick jobs, or if you haven't noticed, I guess is why I want to say this. We went ahead and merged the code coverage job that we're using on Cinder. I've just found it kind of useful on the Cinder side, and it did. And I was wishing we had it in brick, and then I realized I could make that happen. So I put up a patch, and somebody approved it. And so now if you look on the brick patches, you'll see the code coverage link. So Eric had made a point, I think it was at the PTG, that it was helpful for code reviewing, and that's turned out to be the case. It turned out that a whole bunch of unit tests that I thought were being run were not being discovered because we're missing I thought you didn't need to have that empty init file anymore, but I've got to review my Python knowledge. Anyway, it was missing and they weren't being discovered, and the code coverage picked that up. So that was nice. So please take advantage of that. It's a useful job. Okay, next topic is the Berlin, well, I don't know it's the virtual summit that's coming up in October. So I think I mentioned this last week because I think it had come out. So anyway, so the forum is our opportunity to get definite feedback from operators and end users. So it would be good to have something in there. So for you to attend, so the forum is part of the summit. So I've got a link that I will put in the chat also So anyway, if you want to participate, I don't know anything about the timing of the summit. I don't know that that's been announced. Although usually when I say that in a meeting, somebody will point out that it just showed up on the mailing list. So check the mailing list and see if they've got schedules yet. But anyway, to participate in the forum, you need to register for the summit, but the summit is free. So, you might as well just go ahead and register. So do the link. Whoops, that link is bad because it's got an extra slash. But okay. Anyway, for our particular purposes, we need to do some brainstorming about what we will discuss at the forum. So I'll put that link in IRC also. So if there's anything you're working on, like, maybe Yvonne with the backups, you want to get some feedback or talk to operators about anything, we get to propose some topics, and then they're going to we have to brainstorm topics, then we have to actually formally propose them, and then they'll get selected. So that's the way the process goes. So if you have any ideas, put it on the Etherpad, and then I forget which meeting. At one of the meetings, we will look over them real quick, and then we'll put in, the top 2 or so as proposals. We can propose as many as we want. They tell you that each project will only get 1 or 2. But again, since this is all virtual, it's not like we're limited by number of rooms or anything. So, you know, we could even have our own stealth forum if we want to at the same time, if they don't want to give us a, actual space. So we'll see how that stuff works out. Everything's in flux because it's the first time this is going to be happening virtually. So guys, limit. So anyway, I want to encourage you to put topics on there, because otherwise we'll wind up with the topics I selected, which would be great for me, but may not be so interesting for everybody else. Okay, not the last thing. Next thing I want to say is just I sent out a priorities email. Can't think and type at the same time. No, I can think, I just can't speak and type. Okay, so I sent out an email with the priorities, so please take a look at it, because they're listed on there. So what's coming up is with deadlines. We got the OS Brick release next week, so that has to happen. Week after that, we have to release the Python Cinder client for Victoria and the Brick extension, but I don't think there are any changes in that. And that's also the feature freeze. So the priority for reviewing, of course, is going to be Brick reviews because, right, that's next week. The next thing is Cinder features that are associated with changes in the client, because those features can't be given a feature freeze exception because we've got to release the client. So we've got 2 of those. We'll take a closer look at those in a few minutes. And then other than that, it's the regular features. So those are all on blueprints. If anybody's got a feature that's not included in the list, well, we'll look at the list in a minute too, because I discovered one over the weekend that hadn't been listed that I thought had been merged, but my memory was completely wrong. So there may be others floating around. So we'll have to look at that. Okay, but anyway, and then RC1 is the week of September 21st. So everything's happening really fast, and which is good in some ways and not so good in others. Okay, so that's it for announcements. Anybody have anything they'd like to share with the group or to announce? Okay, works for me. All right, so now let's move along. Okay, so the OS Brick release. So I'm just going to give you the link to all the patches. So let's take a quick look. Open this. Okay, so Sean had put up a bunch of patches removing outdated connectors. So those are mostly merged. There've been, I think the last one's in the gate right now, so hopefully that'll go through. And then the major, I'd like everybody to take a quick look at the list. I think most of so Gorka's patches for the RBD, I forget, well, anyway, they're on the email list. There were a bunch of really important patches. Those have all merged, and I've completely forgotten what they were now because we don't have to worry about them. There's some cleanup kind of things like dock linting that may be good to have land. The only other one I noticed was the one is showing at the top of my list, but it's in merge conflict now, and I've got a -1 on it. But it's a fix for the RBD connector to work with Ceph Octopus. So that's probably kind of important. Apparently the Ceph config, so OS Brick will write a temporary config file to work with Ceph, and the format of the file has changed slightly with Octopus. And so there's a section there's this general section that used to not be there, but if it's not there now, then Ceph can't find some of the config options. So this patch handles that. Since we're not seeing a lot of test failures, I'm just thinking probably I mean, our infrastructure is not using Octopus yet. I think I think the CI stuff might be up to Nautilus in some cases, but I don't know that Octopus is being used anywhere. But I think Octopus is being shipped with Focal, and since everything's switching to Focal, this may be a thing. So anyway, I'd like to get some eyes on that patch. It's a pretty straightforward patch. I mean, I think, so please take a look at it. It should be pretty quick. My comment was just, I didn't like the way the versioning was being compared because I don't think it was very robust. And I wanted some more tests added. But I think the basic idea seems okay. But especially anybody who works a lot with Ceph, please take a look at it to make sure we're on track. And then that was it. I've got this note about a remove cinder feature, but I don't know that that really matters. It's not a functional thing. So then the other thing is the volume local cache support for OS Brick. That's got 1+2, so it would be very good for somebody to look at that. I'll put the link in the chat, and I should write down what this is because I'm violating my own rules here. So I think that the test coverage on that is good. Code looks good. It's low impact in the sense that if you're not trying to use this thing, it's not going to have any effect on OS Brick. So I think it looks good. It's tested with unit tests. So I think it's ready to go, but please take a look at it to verify. And then on the Cinder side, we've got the code that basically what it does is when you add the caching to the extra specs for volume, it makes sure that you're not using multi-attach at the same time because that would be a problem with the cache. Okay. So the patch has 1+2, but that doesn't mean anything because we need more than one. And so I think the code coverage is really good, but please take a look at it. Okay, and then I think that's the last one. Lee Yarwood has a patch up to, we have some encryptors we've been carrying along for a while that have been deprecated, but there's a question on the patch about how to handle, that we might need to handle migrations. So I don't want to merge that one until Wallaby. So we'll discuss that at the PTG, whether we need a migration path and how we're going to do that. But I don't think, Sophia's got a patch, but I think it's a POC. Yeah, it's got a workflow. So I think unless so the main thing is then, the Ceph Octopus patch I think is important, and then the volume local cache, and then that would be it for Brick. So that's good. Any general comments or questions or? Okay, so let me spell patches. Yeah, the other thing I was going to ask about the Ceph Octopus patch is, it had been sitting for a while, but the guy showed up in IRC yesterday and asked about it. So I think he's still actively watching, but I'm wondering whether it's important enough that if he doesn't move on it in the next day or two,
Но я не хочу помножки.
Somebody else
Ну,
should
в
take
смысле,
it.
да. Хорошо. Надпись уже уже.
All right, so we got the. So yeah, so it would be good for right, like I said, the patch. I mean, I basically rewrote it in the review, so it would be very easy. So what I'm just saying is, right, I'd like the contributor to do it and handle everything. But if he doesn't, I'm wondering if the Ceph Octopus thing is important enough to get into OS Brick that somebody should just take it over and do it. Um, so if I would appreciate people's opinion on that. I
Yeah, I
guess
think
I
it
should.
would get in.
Yeah, the only thing about that patch, so it's tested with unit tests and stuff. It's just, it's not actually, I don't have a way of, well, I don't have an easy way of hooking it up to a Ceph Octopus to see what happens. But yeah, so that's kind of a
We
important
could
thing though.
probably we could probably at some point extend the DevStack plugin Ceph stuff to install newer version like Octopus.
All right, maybe I'll
Version.
take a quick look at that because even if we just did it as a local patch on this job, just to get it through quickly, I mean, to get something running quickly, that would be okay. But yeah, I'd feel much better if we had a third party confirmation that this is working correctly. Okay, and then also, well, I guess that's pretty much it. Okay, so we decided it is important. Okay. All right. All right. Anything else about OS Brick? Okay. Then that's good. So, right, bug fixes and stuff we can always release later, but right, the Victoria release that will go out is going to be the one we cut next week. So please review what's available, or if you have anything you're working on, and let me know in the Cinder channel if there's something else that we're missing that's going to be important, because time is pretty much out. Okay, let's move along to the next topic, the Cinder client. Okay, so first thing is that we've got a race condition because two people proposed patches that increment the microversions. So, okay, so it's basically, so Yvonne and Rajat, who are both here, have patches. I think Yvonne's is pretty much ready. I mean, my objection was just you need to make a correction to the release note. So I'm thinking we can resolve this. Just let Yvonne have 3.61, and Rajat, why don't you aim your changes as 3.62? And then we won't have last minute conflicts we got to resolve. Does that sound? Because I think both of these are going to go in. So Yvonne's patch, on the Cinder side, he's exposing the cluster name so that operators can see it on volumes for AA situations. So that seems perfectly good. So that would be microversion 3.61. And then Rajat's change is the default volume, the project level default volume types. So that can be, it's an API change. So the project level default volume types are set via the API. So it's a more extensive change. So there's going to be some stuff on the Cinder side, but I think we've got a week, right? Yes. So I think, Rajat, how are you doing work-wise? Will you be able to get the changes in?
So on the client side, I just updated all the test cases today. So I think the client change is ready for
Okay.
reviews. Uh, I'm not sure if I missed anything, but everything is working and the tests are also working fine. So
Okay.
and
Yeah, on the Cinder side, I had a bunch of comments on your review, but I think there's nothing right. There's nothing unfixable, right? So it's just a matter of getting it in. So I think we're okay there. Because I think we probably don't want to merge the change to the client unless we know that the Cinder one is going to merge. So okay, so we got a week to handle that. Okay, so Rajat, are you okay with being microversion 3.62?
yeah, no problem.
All right, great. Okay, so then that race
Thank you.
condition is averted. Okay, cool. Um, all right, and then let's take a look at what else is open. There doesn't seem to be a lot. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so you can see by this list, there's not a lot of stuff sitting out here for the Cinder client. Um, yeah, so it's mostly sort of infrastructure stuff. So Luigi's got a couple of test patch changes. John's got some Flake 8 and lower constraints. Um, I was looking at one of those earlier. I think it needs a rebase maybe because PEP8's identifying a problem that doesn't exist in master. Um, but I didn't. So anyway, so keep an eye on this list because I think it's probably good to get right the updating the lower constraints and stuff if that works. I think the lower constraints change depends on this Flake 8 import thing, and the Flake 8 is the one that's got a weird error. So I think if I just rebase it on master, everything will work. But I haven't actually done that, so I don't know for sure. So keep an eye on those, or I'll send out an email. But I think we're basically good. So it's just Yvonne and Rajat's changes are the main ones for the Cinder client. Because I think, Sophia, your change with the new size depends on a proof of concept patch that you've got in Cinder. Is that right? So that's okay. So that's not ready yet. Okay. And then,
I just posted one more patch to Brick Cinder client extension. It's just update of lower constraints, but it will be good to get it.
okay. All right. So, yeah, I didn't even think of looking at that. What's it? Its official name is right, Python Brick Cinder Client Extension.
I don't know if it's official or not, but we've got this name as a repository name.
Yes, okay. Oh yeah, that's what's sitting. So update the lower constraints. Okay, and that one looks good. Okay, I'll take a look at that after because I right upon just okay. That seems fine. All right, so it looks like we're in pretty good shape. So right, review the volume local cache stuff on the brick side. and I'll push that guy to finish the octopus patch and look into whether we can set up a quick CI running octopus. And then Husky said,
just a note about my patch, so you can
okay.
read it later.
Is that I'm trying to remember which one I was looking at. There's one that changes the functional test jobs to use. I'm not sure which repo that's in. But instead of using the playbooks,
That's
you're using.
probably this one.
Okay. What I noticed, I was looking at this morning, and the lower one. So the Python 3.6 job, the functional Python 3.6 gives you, the list of artifacts. You can click and see the Groovy HTML test result thing, but the other one didn't, which was the 3.7 job didn't. And I was wondering why, because they're built on the same job, so I thought they'd behave the same way, but they both passed. So I was just curious about whether there was something weird going on there. So if you have a minute to look at that, otherwise,
Yes, there is.
Okay. All right.
I commented already, but basically,
okay.
it seems like for some reason now I was looking at another job, but if I remember correctly, the error message is that Python 3.7 is not found. So the error, the job is basically not running the test, and at that point it should probably fail, which is not happening, and I'm not sure why. But that's the reason. So probably I haven't checked whether the patches which switches to Focal has been merged or not. But if we are, no, it's not. There is still a pending patch. But the time, so the job should fail at this point. But at the same time, if we merge the migration to Focal, which is something we should probably merge before branching, it means that the master will be the job will run on Focal, and at that point we will need to switch to probably create a job for Python 3.8, because if I remember correctly, the runtime for Victoria are Python 3.6 and Python 3.8.
Right. Yeah, I was just noticing that we don't have a functional 3.8 in there. But right, and then there's a comment in the I think it's either in the talks or in the Zool.yaml. Must be in the Zool.yaml. So the functional 3.7, I think, tries to limit the node pool, because earlier in the cycle we were having trouble getting 3.7 anywhere because it wasn't available on some nodes. So I'm wondering if that's what's causing problem. Although, well, anyway, okay, I'll take a look too, and maybe between the two of us we can get that figured out. So I may just ping people. Once we get this working, I'll just ping people in the Cinder channel to approve it so we can get the infrastructure all set up. But that'll be good. Okay, so that'll be for the Cinder client. Okay, and then I think the testing stuff on the brick side is looking okay. I think, well, I'll go review that too and make sure we're testing with Python 3.8. Okay, any other general comments or anything about Cinder client or brick? Should be writing this down. Okay. All right. All right. So then the final thing is just the Victoria features. Okay. So yeah. So part of creating a spec, we have that blueprint link that's at the top of each spec. So the whole point of that is so that we can easily track them here. But if you're if you're working on a feature that's not showing up in this list, please let me know right away. Otherwise, these are the high priority reviews, other than like security bug fixes, for the next 2 weeks, because it would be good to get it would be good not to have any feature freeze exceptions, and then we can just concentrate on bug fixes. So I think I'll review the stuff that I think everything that needs code review I've looked at, I believe. Well, that might not be true. One of the NetApp ones came in kind of late. But anyway, please look at those. There's one blueprint that's, right, the delivery is unknown, that one way at the bottom, and the priority is undefined, and it's not approved. So I just want to look at that real quickly, because I'm inclined to say no to this for, certainly no for Victoria. But let me give you the link to the actual patch. This is one of those things that looks really simple, but I think it's going to cause a bunch of problems, or at least it's not as friendly as it looks. So basically, Swift has some kind of, there's a storage policy that you can set on containers that you create in Swift. You have to set them at the time of creation, though. And although you're allowed to specify the policy with any put to that container, but if you specify a policy as part of your put and the container has a different policy, which can only be assigned at the time of container creation, your put fails. So that's the main problem here. So you can see my comment at the bottom. I just want to make sure I'm not being too harsh, or that this isn't a feature like people are demanding. So I'd like to know a little bit more about this use case, because it seems like, I mean, my feeling is, right, people who administer Swift have pretty strong feelings about, right, storage policies. And I would think that for the Cinder backup service, they would probably, if they want to assign non-default storage policies, they probably know exactly which ones they want. And so they would probably create a container and tell us to use that. The other option is maybe we would do like a best effort thing here. Because the problem is, right, you can configure stuff on the Cinder side and then completely break everything, right? So you have the container. We will create the container. So if it's a container that doesn't exist yet, then this is no problem, right? Because you can assign the policy at the time of creation, unless you gave it a non-existent policy or something. But afterwards, you can't retroactively change the support policy. I mean, change the storage policy on an existing container and expect it to actually work. So anyway, you know, the problem with this best effort stuff is sometimes you would like stuff to fail so that you know for sure on the Cinder side that the storage policy I want to use is not being used. On the other hand, when all your backups can't be done, which is usually late at night or sometime, right, you might not be around to notice that and fix things. So my feeling is, well, so you know my feeling because I just said it. So anyway, so I think this is definitely not ready, but just wanted to throw that out there in case somebody sees an obvious use case for this. Thinks, you know, what the heck, I'm making a big deal about nothing. All right, so since nobody
By
seems
the
to,
way,
oh, Yvonne, yeah.
sorry, I was muted.
Oh,
So,
okay.
is any change to get Swift team to ask them for a review dispatch?
I'm
Maybe
sorry.
maybe we can ask Swift team to review
Oh,
dispatch.
okay. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, because because they might just say this is not a good idea. The way to do it is to right, just have the administrator make you the right kind of container, and then away you go. Um, all right, all right. So in any case, it doesn't look like it's. I don't want to mess with it for Victoria, um, unless we have a good reason to. But it sounds like we don't. All right, so we'll hold off on this. Okay, but I guess the main point here was, does anybody see any blueprints that are missing? Okay, good, because this is what I want people to use to make sure, right, when you're doing Cinder reviews in the next week and a half, please work from this so that we can get the features completed. Okay. So I guess I should say that in the channel too. All right. Let's. Yeah. So most of these are. So the one we got Rajat's default volume type, so everybody's aware of that. The one that I had, and we got the Dongfang support volume local cache. That's pretty much ready. I had completely forgotten about the support modern compression algorithms. I just thought that had merged, but it hadn't merged. It had just been sitting for like a month and a half. So anyway, I went back and looked. That looks fine. It's using a Python library, so there's no dependency on no external binary dependencies or any of that kind of stuff. So I think it's a safe change also, and it will give us a new modern compression algorithm that's all the rage these days. So that should be a pretty quick review. And then I sent an email to the Hitachi people because I marked this as implemented, but there's like a couple of follow-up things. So for instance, I don't think they show up in the supported driver list. But if they're not going to follow up, I guess that's not a big deal. There were three things. So that, yeah, they're supposed to update the support matrix. I encouraged them to add like a documentation page about the driver. And there was one other thing they were supposed to do. But their third-party CI, well, last time I looked, was running okay. So they did get that part in. There's like a third thing, but I can't remember what it is. So that's implemented, but I'll just have to follow up again. I think I sent that email last week, just saying there's still some follow-up stuff you need to do. And then mostly it's driver features. Okay, so again, so priority, volume local cache. Now Yvonne's change isn't on this list, but we had it on the other thing. I think most of your AA stuff is almost approved, right, Yvonne?
Yes, I've got only one patch that I updated today with new micro version.
Okay.
Everything else is approved. Thank you.
All right, great. So that's all set. So okay, so we're in pretty good shape. So please take a look at Rajat's stuff on the Cinder side and the client side, and it looks like we'll be good for Victoria. Okay, that's all I've got.
And one more question for me about Victoria.
Sure.
I proposed TSM backup driver deprecation. I mean, do we want to get it merged in Victoria, or we'll wait for Wallaby?
Oh, that was right. The removal of the TS, is that the Tivoli storage thing, the IBM thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Man.
Did we ever hear back from them?
No, and I did. So I contacted. So technically, right, Red Hat has some kind of association with IBM these days. So I checked with my product manager to see, like, who's our contact over there, and he gave me a name who I sent an email to, and I'll have to follow up on that also. So no, so I never heard back from any of the IBM people. So Jay made initial thing. So Jay actually did hear back from somebody, but he didn't know, but he knew of somebody he thought might know. So I've contacted the guy who we thought might know, and he's never responded. And I'm pretty sure I'll check and make sure I followed up with a reminder to him because it's sort of vacation days, so it might have slipped through the cracks. And then yeah, so I contacted somebody on the Red Hat side who's supposed to be like knowledgeable about IBM's storage, or at least like know who's over there. So I think I got like a vacation response from him. So I'll have to follow up with that. So anyway, so Yvonne, so to answer your question, sorry about this long story. Right, so you had the patch, right, you found a problem with it. And did we fix that problem, or is that still open?
Let me check.
Yeah, I can't remember if we were. So yeah, because I think what you had brought up was that you noticed there was a problem with a string or something that, or the way they were creating an exception was going to raise another exception instead of actually doing what it was supposed to do.
Yes, the driver is not fixed right now.
Okay. So yeah, so the situation is we can fix that obvious flaw, but we don't know the rest. Yeah, so I'm inclined not to remove it. Well, I guess we have until RC1 to actually remove it, right? Technically, because it's not a feature. It would just be removing something.
I don't propose to remove it right now. I propose to deprecate it.
To duplicate it?
Deprecate.
Oh, sorry. So we don't need more of those.
Deprecate.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Let's go ahead and now I think with the backup drivers, we don't have that same kind of deal that we have with the volume drivers, where you must have the flag in order for it to work. So we'll just announce it, and I guess maybe put a comment in the code, so it won't be obvious to anybody, but it will be there.
That's actually what I did.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. So
Okay.
let's go ahead. I think this makes sense because we're not getting any response. I did find out though, right, the guys who were working on the StoreWise driver who showed up like a week ago in the Cinder channel. So I was able to find out from them that the Tivoli Storage Manager product still exists on the IBM side, but they didn't know of anybody who actually worked on it. But they promised that if they'd come across somebody, they'd let us know. So yeah, so anyway, so I think it makes perfect sense for us to deprecate it. And I'll continue to try to track this down. But did I send something to them? I can't remember if I sent something. I think I was holding off sending out to the mailing list until I actually talked to somebody at IBM. But maybe I should just go ahead with them. Right. So I'll send something to the mail. All right. So as part of the deprecation of this, right, we'll deprecate in this release. I'll send an email now announcing the deprecation. And then hopefully we'll hear from people who actually use this, or not. We'll see what happens. Okay. All right. Thanks, Yvonne. So we'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Okay. So, right. So we'll go ahead. We'll do the quick fix. We'll deprecate it because it has no CI and we don't know whether it really works or not. And then we'll have to revisit in a couple of weeks at the Wallaby whether we should remove it or not. Okay, thank you. So I guess I should put that in the chat. Okay, so we okay. I guess it's time for open discussion. Okay, anything on anybody's mind? Yes, I don't know if anybody saw it. Eric posted some notes in the Cinder channel yesterday. I think it's the the LVM LIO Barbican job. That one seems to have gone unstable in several different ways. So
Yeah, at least one failure seems to be tracked by a Nova bug that's open right now. I don't know if that's actually moving along at all or not.
mhm. Yeah, it seems like it's the test volume boot pattern test fails a lot. And then I was seeing some different ones yesterday.
Yeah, this one was in the snapshot test.
Okay. Yeah, so that one I haven't actually seen. So yeah, if I have some time, I'll try to put up a one of those Elasticsearch things, and then maybe that will help us practice a little bit better, or at least detect the irregularities a little better.
I have the feeling that the boot pattern one is the biggest offender. But yeah, as you said, it's not the only one. And I
Yeah.
still think I think already said that it's probably something related with resources on the system because it's a timeout connecting to the spawned instance inside the machine. So it's something like, even though it's like a Ceros machine,
Yeah,
still like nothing in a small environment.
right. Yeah, I mean that seems pretty plausible. So what would be the way to address that? Is there a way to request like bigger VMs or?
No. So if it's really a matter of timeout when connecting, which I'm not sure about because it says something like connection refused. So I mean, if you remember the error message, it terminates with a connection refused. So I'm not sure whether having more time for retrying would make it work just because the machine is up properly or not, or if it's something else. But if it's a matter of timeout, we may just try to find out which is the place where we can increase that. And as far as the instances are concerned, I'm not sure we can request something more because the system provided by the people who are like providing infra resources are different, and
Right.
there is a minimum, but
Mhm.
you cannot guarantee that they will get specific issues, specific features.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense to pursue the timeout issue first.
And also maybe try to revisit some of the tests. It's something that the QE team did in the past. So try to see if some test needs to be marked as a slow or some other tag, and try and change run them separately, which I think is
Oh,
done for Tempest, but maybe in that job they are run all together. So that's
right.
something I may need to recheck. So maybe running them in serially
I
may
see.
solve some issue.
Okay. All right. Thanks for looking at that. We still have 6 minutes left if anyone. I think I don't know if it's been approved yet, but the Wallaby. I don't know if you've been following this for the Wallaby release schedule. Sean had initially put up like a 29-week schedule, and then there were some suggestions to align it with an Ubuntu release. So I think that's what's gonna happen. So I think it's gonna be a 26-week schedule, um, which I think is longer than we had for Victoria. Um, so, but once you get to right R-9, it's the same no matter how much time you had before you get there. Um, so we're looking okay. As long as there's no major gate breakages in the next week, we should be able to get a decent brick release out, and then Cinder client after that. Okay, don't forget about the Berlin Forum brainstorming. So if you want some feedback from actual operators, this would be a way to get it. Um, so please put something on the Etherpad if you've got some ideas. And then also, right, the Wallaby PTG will be coming up. Well, yeah, 2 months. We got a little bit of time. But anyway, so start thinking about what kind of things we need to do in Wallaby. Okay. Again, I think September 7th is a holiday in the USA. That's right before yeah, so right the week of the feature freeze, there's a holiday in the USA. So um, if you're going to be taking that day off, which I encourage everyone to do, just please review now. um, right? So we can get this stuff out of the way. But there's probably not going to be much last minute review bandwidth available the week of the feature freeze. So. I don't know why I'm saying all this stuff, right? I'm looking at the faces here. You're the people who do all the reviews, right? So, yeah. So, but yeah. So anyway, since you do all the reviews, right? If you have that holiday, please take it off because, right, this time in the Victoria release schedule, if you look, right, I specifically said there might not be a lot of review bandwidth. So people should get their features in early. So don't feel like you've got to review stuff on a day off, because I think everybody needs as many days off as they can get these days. All right. We're just about out of time. Thanks for attending. I probably won't do a follow-up, poll about this. So I'll just ask in the meeting next week if we should do another video meeting or whether we've had our fill of it. I don't mind doing this, although I was pretty bad this time about keeping notes going in the IRC. I'll read through the IRC log, and if it's just way bad, then I'll have to do something about it, I guess. All right, well, thanks for attending.
Wasn't I?
Sorry?
I said I was supposed to be taking notes, wasn't I?
Now that you mention it, yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to worry about that next time.
All right, next time. I was late and was pulled off to other things, so that was my fault. I forgot.
No, that's fine. I was supposed to be typing as I talked, but I seem to have trouble doing that. All right. Well, thanks for attending, everybody. Good to see you all, and happy reviewing, and I'll see you next week.
Yep, good to see you. Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye bye.